Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you guys like to go first? Is that okay? All right. So Anna and Lucia are going to go first. And would you like to come and sit here and use this computer? Is that okay? So hopefully you can see them fine. They're going to come and get comfortable. And then when you're ready, you can start making your presentation. The audio should be no problem at all, I think. So, right then.
Yeah.
So here's our first presentation. Please begin with.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Anna, this is Lucia, and together we are Evergreen Productions. And today we'd like to propose our documentary titled Secondhand Stories. So basically we'll be covering roughly the topic redefining fashion with sustainability in mind. Okay, so this is our table of contents. We'll be covering a synopsis, our style and approach to the documentary, our some background references, our collaborators and participants within the documentary, and our project timeline on also a target audience. So when it comes to the roles that we'll be playing in the documentary, I'll be covering the director and camera operator roles, and Lucia will be taking over the production manager and video editor role.
So coming to the concept of our documentary, that would be how vintage fashion empowers individuals, inspires self-expression, and supports sustainable living through the eyes of a shop owner, which means that, which means that we're gonna interview a shop owner and ask them about their own experience with secondhand clothing. And in particular, we want to ask them why they decided to start this kind of business and what is their general view on the market of secondhand clothing in general. And most importantly, we want to ask them what secondhand fashion means to them. And especially we want to redefine the misconception of secondhand clothing, because there is still the belief in many people that these kind of clothing are low quality or unclean or outdated, especially in the older generation. But first of all, this is not the case. And second, secondhand clothing provide a more sustainable choice to mainstream fashion and to new clothing. And the fact that each piece of clothing, whenever you enter a second-hand shop, is unique and come from a specific time and place in history, it allows a lot of creativity when it comes to styling and fashion.
Yeah. So when it comes to our style and approach, firstly, we'll have a very visual approach, so a poetic style and approach. So this means basically having shots of like the store, close-ups, excuse me, close-ups of the clothing itself, or like the fabrics and the textures. And then also we were thinking about kind of shooting unique outfits of the people that come to the store and also of the store owner, and then also the store setup itself. And when it comes to the style of the documentary, mainly it's a participatory style. So basically, like Lucia mentioned, we'll be interviewing the shop owner of a secondhand clothing store. So we'll be delving into the topics including, for example, the protagonist's background. So we'll be introducing the owner's journey with secondhand clothing, what drew them to secondhand clothing in the first place. So this backstory gives like an insight to the audience into the person's own passions and motivations, grounding the narrative in a personal journey. Then also we'll be covering challenges faced. So this can revolve around like societal misconceptions, like Lucia mentioned beforehand about secondhand fashion. Also the environmental impact of secondhand fashion, or fast fashion in this sense, or even the struggles with running a small business in a world dominated by mass-produced fashion. So this kind of also creates this like tension within the story and can make the viewers like empathize with the store owner. Then also covering like community and also influence. So we'll be diving into how the store has become a community space for others passionate about sustainability and style or fashion. And then also we wanted to ask the store owner about their own vision for the fashion industry's future. So basically how they hope to change the fashion industry with their own approach with their secondhand clothing store.
And for our background references, so here we have 3 different papers, and the first paper talks a little bit about the history of secondhand clothing and how these pieces of clothing can be a medium for transmitting culture and personal history. So secondhand clothing literally can become a textile media that embodies and spreads personal and cultural stories across different times and places. And the second paper instead talks about the correlation that there is between fashion and someone's mental health. And it actually finds out that being able to wear fashion that aligns with one's personality and one's aesthetic can actually have a big impact on someone's self-esteem and emotional stability. And that suggests that actually clothing can be used for self-confidence and self-expression and self-empowerment, which is the point that we're trying to make, especially with secondhand clothing, as that allows even more to explore someone's creativity and uniqueness. And the last paper instead is about the environmental and social impacts of fashion. I think by now we all know the impacts that fast fashion, for instance, has, but each piece of clothing comes with a big toll on the environment, and secondhand clothing instead provides an eco-friendly alternative, which is also what this paper suggests. And it's not only about the environmental damages of fashion, it's also about having a more ethical approach, which is something that doesn't happen with fast fashion. And as far as our target audience is concerned, our primary audience would be mainstream shoppers and parents and educators. Mainstream shoppers are those people that buy a lot of clothing, and especially they buy from big brands and new clothes, which is definitely not sustainable. So this would be the people we would target the most, as well as parents and educators, because it's really, really important to receive an education about the environmental impact that clothing have and that fashion has. And our secondary audience would be young adults and students, as secondhand clothing are also a cheaper alternative to new clothing. So that would fit with young adults and students, which might not have as much money to afford clothes.
So when it comes to our collaborators within the documentary, we'll be focusing mainly on a shop owner of a secondhand clothing store. And also when it comes to like the benefits of what the shop owner could, I guess, get from the documentary itself as well, would be that they would be able to reflect on their own role in the secondhand fashion industry. They're able to share their own passion and interests when it comes to secondhand clothing, also with the community and how the community benefits from it as well. And then also they can advocate more for sustainable fashion through our documentary, and of course also inspiring others to kind of get into this habit of getting into secondhand clothing rather than going for mainstream fashion outlets. When it comes to where we would shoot it, we were thinking about Amerikamura in like Shinsaibashi Namba area. It's a pretty famous neighborhood for like secondhand clothing, vintage clothing. So there are plenty of shops that we could go and ask shop owners if they would allow us to interview them and also shoot the documentary within their store. We already have some shop ideas that we've gone to beforehand. We have yet to ask the shop owners, but that will come up in the following weeks in November, but we'll talk about that later on. But for example, we have a store called Mare and Kaliko as well.
So when it comes to our timeline, we plan to be done with all the preparation phase by the 20th of November and start shooting next week and being done with our shootings by the end of November so that we can already start with the post-production earlier on the 20th of November. And this is our more detailed timeline. So now in the next week, we're gonna focus the most on the script and the outline of the documentary, and most importantly, contacting participants so that we can get done with our interviews and shootings as soon as possible. And then starting with the editing in the end of November. Yeah, and this is our timeline, and this was our presentation and our pitch. Thank you for listening.
Very much. Okay, well, we don't have time for questions, so thank you very much. And I think, Dongji, we can go over to you now. Is that?
Yes.
fine?
Yeah.
Somebody ready?
Yes, our group is ready.
Great.
Yeah, are you able to see our screen?
Yes, we can, thank you.
All right, so let me see. So whoever presents.
He's presenting, he's fine.
All right, go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalia, this is Eddie and Sophia, and we would like to talk more about the topic of our project, which is going to be the Shanghai Interlude. We're going to focus on showcasing the different faces of Shanghai. For those who have not visited Shanghai yet, we can all agree that Shanghai is a place which is very diverse in terms of the scenery that we can see here. So on one hand, we have different very tall skyscraper. On another hand, we have places where the heritage meets modernity, and this is the main focus of our documentary, and we would like to focus on showcasing the city through its own eyes. This is the main idea of the documentary, and Shanghai is going to be our main narrator of the story, with the key message being the showcasing of how Shanghai evolved through the past few years and how it's evolving now. And this all will be accompanied by the voices of people who live here, who left, and who are coming back to Shanghai after some years. As for the synopsis, the one-line synopsis is that Shanghai's evolution is reflected in its urban development, showcasing the interplay of modernity, tradition, and the rich cultural diversity woven into its streets. And to sum it up, we want to explore the many faces of the city, just as I mentioned before. As for the participants and collaborators, as I mentioned, the main concept of the documentary is that the Shanghai is going to be our main character and then the main narrator. The supporting characters will be the residents of the city, both the Chinese and the expats. But as for the whole concept of how we're going to portray that, Eddie will talk more about that in the next slides. And now I will head over to Sophie.
Good morning. So our target audience are people who are intending to come to Shanghai for work and life, so expats, professionals, and students. Secondary audience are Shanghai residents and tourists who briefly come to Shanghai. And the age of our target audience are adults who intend to live and work. And the secondary age is students, so 18 to 24. As for the style and approach, we chose the city symphony genre, so it will be mostly poetic in style, which relies on visuals and audio a lot. So narrative will not be that strong, only portrayed in such cases when we interview people on the streets, and it will mostly be overlapped with the main visual. And for B-rolls, we're gonna use archive footage from Shanghai's audiovisual archive and a few other archives that Eddie will elaborate later on. Our locations, most of us in this group already accustomed in Shanghai, and we know the locations well. We went there to check it out if there is anything going on in such districts. For example, Guangpu district and Laosmen district have multiple streets that are currently under construction or being closed down and awaiting to be reconstructed and revived. We're gonna film it and wait if something happens later. And as for Yew Garden, it's a great example to compare how history is well preserved, because if you compare archive footage with the modern image of the district, it looks exactly the same, just colored. Here we try to play with storyboard ideas. We input some archive footages, and for those films that we're gonna take ourselves, we used AI help to see how it looks, and later it will be replaced with our own footages. So here the example of busy Shanghai streets and some streets that are being shut down and reconstructed. And these are just a few examples of how Yuyuan looks back then, archive footage from Shanghai's archive. And that's the modern photo I took last year. It's exactly the same, just the angle is different. We're gonna take it from the same angle later. Yeah, and of course, the final part is the band, because it's the example itself, how the contrast of the Shanghai, because on the east side, you see all the modern Pudong area, and on the west side, you still can observe all the historical buildings well preserved and decorated. Yeah, it's
Then as far as the archive footage, we actually have three places to get to the archive. China Film Archive, actually it's up in Beijing, has a big archive, and as you can see, it has 44,000 sources. I'm actually working with another my supervisor, Professor Hua, who's from the film and TV, and he's actually trying to get me access, because actually it's a little bit difficult to get access there. So, however, I actually went to the U.S. National Archives online, and I was able to find a lot of archive footage from Shanghai. Basically, was from soldiers that were visiting Shanghai in 1940 and 1945. And this is actually some of the footage here. And as you can see here, this is actually the Yuan Garden as she spoke. And this is actually some archive footage of it back in the day. And actually, this is a newsreel that they use in the States. So the idea is to take some of that footage and intermix it with some modern ones. Just let this play a little bit. So I'm gonna pause it there. So this area here that you see, if you go there today, it actually still looks much like it does back then. And also down here below, you see a Pingyang Road. That's actually something that I had asked around from my Chinese friends and stuff, and nobody really knows what it is. But there's some actually really good footage of it back then where it's actually really demolished. But some people say it's actually a new shopping district. So that's actually some good footage that we can get from there. We also have access to the Chinese archives here specifically, and actually it's based here in Shanghai. So as you can see here, they have footage all the way back from 1958 to early 2000. And here's some footage here. This is actually the Hongqiao Airport. So they have a lot of historical footage of the airport being constructed. So I'm hoping once I get access to the Shanghai Audio Visual Archives, I'll be able to get more footage of the constructions of the city. So one of the questions last time we were here was should we do a city symphony with no voiceover, or do an interview? So what I did is I actually cut together a really short piece of examples of both. So here is actually a city symphony. This is about 45 seconds. So I'm just gonna let this play. So that actually was the hold on. Okay. Actually was the bun. So actually, just like Sophia mentioned, that if we're gonna actually highlight that at the end, and then okay, and then this one's actually one where I actually did an improv interview with one of my classmates. I was talking about the project, and this is actually what it 2 minutes, okay. So I did an improv interview with. I was telling him about the project, and I recorded with my phone, and I interviewed him about the project, and I interluded it with some other footage, and that's what this looks like.
The first thing that came to my mind is the skyscrapers, the bund, the buildings, the lightings, the neons, and basically an ultra modern.
It's a glitcher, but it's really short. So this is just pictures of a team, and then I think Sophia's going to talk. Or
That's
sorry,
just our.
So just to, we kind of, our presentation got messed up, really sorry. It should be at the very beginning, but we we had some problems with that. As for the production roles, I'm going to be the director. As for the script writers, it will be me and Sophia. Researchers, we are all researchers. We are doing research together. Then Eddie will be the production manager. We kind of divided the roles of the editor and assistant editor. Eddie will be the main editor, and then Sophia will assist. Camera, photography, and graphic design is going to be Sophia's responsibility, and I'm going to take care of the sign design and kind of mixing everything up together. As for the project timeline, this is a very basic timeline. Preparation is what is happening now and has been happening for the past 2-3 weeks. So it's October, November. We are going to shoot very shortly. So preferably next two weeks. So that's the time when we are going to start. And then post-production is scheduled for December 2024, of course. And this is more detailed timeline. So as I said, we're going to start shooting very soon, as you can see here. It will be early November to early December. Then we will assemble everything, start editing, putting on music, mixing everything together, overlapping the voiceover that we're going to record with the visuals, and then delivery will be at early January. And that's basically this. As for the acknowledgements, I don't know if you would like to talk
I just
about
wanted,
that.
there's a name in here, which is the Professor Hua. And the reason why I put that there too is because also he's supervising us and also funding the project. So that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well done. Well, we didn't clap, did we? Sorry. I was too busy thinking about getting the next presentation set up, but that was fantastic, and it's definitely a very ambitious project. But we refrain from making comments for now, and let me get this our next presentation into the full screen mode. Okay, you guys seen that fine?
Yes.
Okay, so second team from Osaka University to present.
Hello everyone. Our documentary is just a glimpse about Japanese work environment, and we like Casa's team is considered like me, Ala, and Sangmi and Clara, our director. So I will just like walk you through the content of our talk, which is like about synopsis, the background of our documentary, and then the style approaches, who are the participants and the target audience, and then our team roles and the timeline. So the synopsis is we try to explore Japan work culture just to answer the question, is it raising red flags or just the green ones? And Japanese people known to be a very hard worker. And in this documentary, we just try to show if it's like the dark and bright sides of their environment by visiting different working places to observe their working styles, the hours, and just to speak with the employees and check if they are appreciating their work or have many struggles to answer the question, is it really a working environment? Is it really a toxic environment or not? And if it's a toxic, we will need to address another question, is Gen Z will able to step in this nightmare? The background for our documentary is like, although Japan known for discipline and perfection in their work culture, it's also a strict work, having a very, very strict work ethics, because employees often face long hours for overtime, intense workload, and so much pressure to perform perfectly. And this can be turned as a toxic environment and became leads to depression and burnout and different diseases, and it can lead to suicide or even death. And they even have the term karoshi, which is death by overwork. And you can just see two of the headlines out of many showing that here is like a Japanese employee just suicide and another has passed away because of the overwork. So for this, our documentary will try to have a glimpse about it. And for the styles and approaches, our directly Clara will walk you through it.
Okay. So the style that we picked would be like observational. So we want to approach the topic by making interviews with people and then also making footage of, for example, office that they are working, or also even on a train when for example in the rush hour when the people are going to work, and yeah, just to show how it is to work in Japan. And as for the interviews that we want to make, we want to somehow get these three generational side of this topic. So since we have also mentioned it in our synopsis, we want to also explore if the younger generation are ready to step into this nightmare. So we want to explore how the three different generations feel themselves in the Japanese work culture. And so we wouldn't have one main characters, but three main characters, and we want to focus on one field to actually be able to make like a comparison. So we picked the field of educational management since it is like accessible for us in this university. So we will make interviews with a student working in cram school, and like how they would like imagine working in Japan, and how is their situation working in Japan as students. And then we will interview a manager who is working at the Osaka International Dormitory. And then we will also ask a senior who was working in this field but now is already retired. Okay. And so our target audience would primarily be those like foreigners who want to work in Japan, because it would be like a first glimpse into the working culture, and that is also why we don't want to only show the red flags but also the green flags. And our secondary target audience would be the students who are soon to be graduating and are looking for a job, and these are Japanese. Yes.
Our team's director is Clara, and I'm in charge of the camera and data. I'm in charge of camera, and I'm just a beginner, so our chef can help me as camera assistant, and also she will edit the video. Production is Casa's team. This is our project timeline. To explain it more detail, we have already done pre-production. Shooting is likely to start now and run until early December. In early December, we will start assembly and raw editing. And the last will start step by step in late December and until early January. So we put the delivery part in late January. These are our references.
Great.
Thank
you
Thank
for
you very
listening.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. Going to stop sharing now so that,
Oh, can you hear us?
yes, we can.
Okay, great. So let me share the screen. Are you able to see our screen, by the way?
Yep, we can.
Great. And, I'm not presenting first. So hopefully you're being able to see yourself in the screen.
Yeah.
All right,
All right then. Hi everyone. Let us start by reading out the synopsis first. In a small city where time seems to move at a gentler pace, our main character crafts worlds filled with dreams and endless possibilities. Once a resident of bustling Shanghai, Wu now faces the bittersweet tension of a life split between his creative ambition and the weight of reality. A subdued but powerful conflict. Through his monologue, guided by the quiet beauty of city streets, natural landscapes, and his own artwork, this film explores the journey to accept that some dreams may always hover just out of reach. In a life full of contrasts and contradictions, how do we find the strength and resilience to keep dreaming and fight for more? So for this synopsis, there is many contradictions and many themes. So we thought of 3 different titles. And one of them is Tug of War, pulled apart by dreams and reality, learn to live in the space between. This is actually a phrase that our translator used while translating the interview with Wulong. And we thought it would be perfectly fitting since the game Tug of War is between between 2 forces pulling in opposite directions.
Yeah, so this title was inspired by 2 things mainly. First of them being the blue color that is the signature color of our artist. It represents the ocean and endless possibilities to him. Yeah, and then during our brainstorming, we kind of discussed that you cannot really anchor a spaceship. And spaceship, you can see it almost in every artwork of our artists. So yeah, and we kind of also made an analogy between the dandelion seed. So yeah, that's the only way to anchor a spaceship. It's an irreversible process. So you either die or you grow. Yeah, and the last title, Dreambound, bound for something more and caught between what is and what could be. Yeah, so this represents the paradox of the strong desire when you want something so much that it actually starts taking something away from you. And it's about commitment and the promise to yourself and to the world that you're going to leave something bigger than yourself.
Right. So now we'd like you to hear the main hypothesis of our film. Holding on to your dreams, even when the world pulls in the opposite direction, is fundamental to the human spirit. Our movie shows the clash between opposing forces of life, mirrored in the struggles of an artist. The main conflict is between an artist's relentless desire to create something meaningful and the demands of a world that often asks them to compromise. We want our film to bring comfort to those who feel lost and a spark of curiosity to those who think they've found all the answers. We believe that the essence of artistry lies in balancing life's contrasts, the way light defines shadow, and how beauty often blooms from struggle.
Yeah, and during our first interview and our brainstorming sessions, we saw a lot of contrasts, dualities, and contradictions. Some of them you can see on the slide. So, for example, small person versus big world, or like small artist in Big Shanghai, reality, imagination, AI versus tradition, and opportunity competition, also about Shanghai. Living in the moment and leaving a legacy, which is also a very important topic for our artist. Yeah, and moving on to our main character. His name is Wulong. He is an artist, animator, and a graphic designer. We met him during an innovation conference in Shanghai in September, and he was the only artist there among like serious tech booths connected to like robots and AI. And the first thing I saw, it was his bold floating hat in the corner. Yeah, and we approached him and we started talking. He's like a very open person and he loves to talk about his art. Yeah, and we kept in touch. Back then he used to be a full-time artist. Now he moved back to his hometown Anji, and he decided to go back to corporate to kind of have more stable income and have more time to create what he actually wants and not what will sell. Yeah, and about his inspirations and his artwork.
Right, these are some of his artworks, and the first thing that is the most apparent is the dominating blue color. To him, this color represents the ocean and endless possibilities, but he also mentioned it was a very depressing and sad and lonely color. Therefore, he adds these bright pink tones to add a bit more hope and a bit more optimism to his drawings. One other big theme of his is space. Space was his first drawing when he first started, and this theme has been following him ever since. Also, he's very interested in technology. He's inspired by music and how it connects people, and by communist anthems. Also, you can see on this slide that there is some art that is physical, not digital. Why is that? Because he's concerned with the rise of AI and he wants to create something that AI cannot steal or replicate.
Yeah, and here in the background, you can see our mood board that we have been putting together for past few weeks. We put there literally everything that inspired us, from photos to artwork, music, and other documentaries. And that kind of helped us to put everything together and make a connection between our ideas. Yeah, and the movies that really stood out to us was The Artisans and Behind the Art. And that helped us decide on the approach of our movie. It will be observational. So yeah, just like The Artisans, it's a movie about Shenzhen artists. What we really liked about it is the pacing, because they kind of play around with it depending on the artist's concept. And they just set the artist down in their studios surrounded by their work and let their ideas free flow and united them by common themes. Yeah, and also the movie had a lot of amazing quotes and gave us a lot of inspo as well. Yeah, and first of all, we were really inspired by Shanghai's inner contrasts, like skyscrapers next to temples, but also when Angie came to the picture, it became even clearer.
To highlight this contrast in our main character's life, we want the cinematography to follow. Therefore, we will try to play around with shadows, lighting, and different compositions. Here you can see videos of like fast-paced painting, energetic music, and on the other side, there is a really intimate ASMR close-up of painting that is slow-paced. And we will also include, this was a video that has like a montage of many pictures of from the world, and we want to highlight the universality of our artist's struggle by also adding those action sequences. In the beginning, we want to highlight the contrast between Shanghai and Anji. Then we will include a tour of his sketchbook and dive deeper into the interviews. There will be no questions from us and only answers from him. The conflict has like a really nice paragraph I would like Masha to read.
Yeah, so the climax of the film will reflect a quieter and more reflective tension, an acknowledgement that while dreams and aspirations are essential to feeling alive, the weight of reality often makes them hard to hold on to. It's the kind of conflict that settles in heart, where the artist faces the bittersweet truth that sometimes the world simply doesn't bend to one's dreams. Yet in accepting this, he finds a quiet strength to keep creating, embracing the beauty and fragility of holding on to something that may always be just out of reach. All right. And collaborators and participants, main character, obvious translation on our friend Jonathan for now. And everything else is on Masha. It was supposed to be a joke, but actually for now, it is what it is. All right.
Yeah, our project timeline, we're starting to film on the 17th of November, hopefully, and we'll be done in 15 weeks. Our target audience is primarily other creatives, people, writers, artists, people who need a little push and a little inspiration. And secondary audience would be people who study artists, who research art and documentaries. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Great, well done. Maybe a round of applause. Can you stop sharing, please? Wow. That was really good. Now I think we have, let me see, where are we? Just a second, I'm trying to get this presentation up. Okay, I should be able to access it. First. All right, okay. Okay. Right, so one person is missing, but we have our third group for you. Are you seeing that okay?
Yes, you can see.
So we are the UNIFSAFE production, and our topic is going to be Shukatsu and Baito. These refers to two types of work that Japanese students usually faces when they are doing the transition from university to society. So here we go. Our team has 3 members. Fahima, who is the director, is unfortunately not here today. I'm Jiayi, I'm going to be the video editor. And here is Sana, who is going to be the camera editor and production manager. And Sana knows Japanese, so she is going to conduct most of the interview as well.
So here is our synopsis. So our synopsis changed a little bit from the first one. So Shukatsu refers to process of job hunting, while baito are part-time jobs that second students commonly engages in, often means to financially support themselves. So we will follow an international student as she recounts her experiences of working part-time and process of hunting for a full-time job. So this video will be for international students. This video will show the concerns and problems as a foreigner about those 2 things and a real aspect of it. Okay. I'm going to talk about the style and approach we are going to use in this documentary. So in one of our readings, I think there's a line that pretty much summarizes our approach. It's that's the line here. It's being there calls for participation and being here allows for observation. So we will try to be as observatory as possible. So when filming certain B-rolls, we'll try not to intrude upon participants' actions and instead will film their natural interaction with other social actors. But at the same time, we'll also use their narrative as the main thread, which means they'll have a greater control over how they will be shown and what contents they are willing to divulge upon in this documentary. So the participatory approach, we mainly took inspiration from these 2 documentaries, which is the first one is Chronicles of the Summer by Jean Rouch and Edgar, and the second one is Word Is Out by Peter Deer. So as I said before, the majority of the narrative will be derived from unstructured interviews. We'll have shots of the participants talking to an interviewer, like Word Is Out in the screenshot below. And but as the interviewer will be like, our presence will be indicated as the participants will be talking to us. The observational approach will be mainly used in B-rolls. So in this documentary, we'll avoid using the voice of God and instead we'll try to use the interviewee's own narrative, how they feel towards the process of job hunting and how they feel towards their part-time work. And their narrative is going to be the thread that connects different sequences in the film. After an initial interview, we'll try to film B-rolls that illustrates and coordinates with the topics they discussed in the interview. And in this case, we'll try to minimize the intrusion of the crew and instead just film the participant with their natural actions. About interview, I will introduce about interview, our method. We will sit face to face and interviewee's eyes do not lean towards the camera. And about language, we're gonna use Japanese as much as possible because our interviewee is from other country, but her mother tongue is not English. And our specific topic is a part-time job as a student and job hunting and problems about benefits as an international student. And here's our leaders and participants, and she's our interviewee. And her name is Kim, and she's from Korea, and she's a student of Kansai Gaida University, and she's in 4th grade. So she's doing a job hunting in Japan now, and she lived in Japan about 10 years.
So this is our project timeline, which I'll briefly talk about. Now we are at the first week of November, so we are supposed to finalize our pitch this week, and we have already contacted our interviewee and can start shooting somewhere at the middle of November. And we plan to do 2 shootings. The first is the interview, and the second shooting will aim to get some B-rolls. And the post-production and rough cut will last until the end of December. And then after that, we'll focus on impact production, media strategy, and release.
Our target audience, our primary audience is international students who also struggle with the same problem. So yeah, this will be a valuable resource for students considering overseas. Yeah. And the secondary audience is students who are thinking about going abroad and Japanese university students. About Japanese university students, we thought like they can think about international students' problems, and also they can foster empathy and understand across cultural lines.
Okay, so basically that's it. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. You changed your topic a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. That's what the pitch is all about. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, and it's over to you now.
Yes.
Let me get out of this as well. Just make sure I have the.
Change slide.
I can stay in the.
Ooh, your camera is moving up and down, making us feel a bit seasick.
Sorry.
Is it us moving or is it the camera?
Our camera. Yeah. So it's adjustable, but we'll try to make it stay. All right. So we'll ask our presenters to move. We do this. All right. Close yours.
Okay, hello, this is the name group, and we actually changed our topic sort of within the week. So this is very brand new pitch for us as well, but our topic is the names we choose. And here's a table of contents, but we can just move forward with this. For our production roles, basically Malik will be in charge as the director. I will be doing the video editing. Rabia is our production manager, and Guido, who is unfortunately sick, not here today, will be in charge of camera operating.
So I'll be telling you about the log line. Actually, our documentary will be exploring the complexities in the digital age, actually questioning whether our online curated personas bring us closer to the self-discovery, our self-discovery, or actually lead us away from our authentic selves. And our synopsis is basically that how these individuals don't use their official names, but they when they are interacting in digital environments and they end up using the pseudonyms, they don't use their original names because of personal personal information. They don't want to reveal their personal information, and because they lack or it can be because they lack self-esteem in their own identities. And this has been a pretty significant topic since the rise of digital age. So we think that it will be important to cover it. And because they come up with different pseudonyms for their virtual activities, so these pseudonyms create this issue that there is a difference between their original self, like their original identities. Their real life identities are quite different than what they actually have or they try to project in the digital world. And this kind of difference opened up a gap for us to research and do this documentary. So this documentary will be examining how selected online pseudonyms let them exhibit their hidden characteristics, or maybe their desire to be something else, and they cannot be that person or personality in real life. But when they choose to be in online platforms, they showcase what they desire or what they have in them hidden. So by conducting in-depth interviews, we will be doing this documentary, and we'll be searching that how their online curated self is different from, either it is bringing them closer to self-discovery, or, making it all that giving them this fake identity in the online platforms. Over to Malik now.
That's mine. Yeah. So I'll do a style and approach. So we plan on doing the participatory documentary style. We want to take the interview approach. Currently, we have in mind 2 interview subjects. They each have an online pseudonym, so that makes them fitting for our project. But we're thinking the number of interviewees might change in the preparation process, depending on like whether we can find maybe more suitable interviewees to be incorporated. So that's something that's up for change. It's fine. Yeah. And other than that, we for the style, we want to do sort of like a switch between the online environments and the offline environments. So that's sort of like a visual style we want to incorporate for our documentary. The subject's online interactions through social media, that's the online environment we hope to display. And then his offline interactions in the real world, that's the real world offline environment that we hope to create. So basically, we sort of want this documentary to feel investigative of the person that we're interviewing, but at the same time, we also want it to feel personal as well and intimate. So for the background references, we found a few studies articles that could support our project. One study we found done by Ford, we found that people take on multiple personas and present different facets of themselves in different contexts all the time. So this doesn't necessarily even have to be applicable to our project. It can be like a person could act differently when he's at work compared to when he's at home, or maybe he might act differently when he's with friends compared to when he's with like his lover. And then for our we found another study done by Denon. This one found that a lot of members of a block-based community tend to use pseudonyms and obscure identifying details to varying degrees. So one of the ways that they create an online identity is by choosing a username, not using their legal name as their online identity. And this study found that the more time the person spends in choosing this username, the stronger the affinity that person would have for this username. And lastly, a study we found that in blogging, it is perhaps expected that persona adoption does not occur unless a detachment from offline self is obvious, such as in the case of pseudonymous blogging. So this applies directly to our the project that we're doing. By picking a pseudonym, it basically allows a person the anonymous freedom to do maybe things that he wouldn't do in real life. And for collaborators and participants, our protagonist is obviously the interviewees of the documentary. The filming locations we plan on doing at their homes or their workplaces, just somewhere that they're comfortable, that they're most willing to talk to us, I guess. And what the participants, the interviewees can gain from this documentary by participating is they can gain a better understanding of the reasonings for why they picked a particular pseudonym when they were constructing their online identity. And they can also decide on whether or not they want to continue using these pseudonyms in the future.
So yeah, before we start with the timeline, I would like to talk about what the main idea is behind this documentary. So we would like to explore if a pseudonym that we pick is actually makes us express ourselves better. So in a sense that does it make us more authentic, or it creates an alter ego that changes what we actually are. So the main question we are chasing is this. And then it's a bit hard to find people to interview, because if you know about this, in China, for example, like live streamers or content creators, they use a lot of face masks, filters, so their social selves and online personalities might differ a lot. So I have a friend that used to work for a company that kind of cultivates these type of live streamers. He was living in a live streamer house for a year, and then he has a lot of great funny stories that he shares with me. I'm not sure if we can include those stories in the documentary, but I would really love to include those stories. And that friend also recommended me some peers of his, but they were not willing to show themselves on the camera because the social media presence of those people are really different than what they actually are. The way they look, the way they talk, the way they act is quite different. And I think it's really interesting to delve into this, and like our project is more like a journey. We don't know what we are going to achieve with this. We don't know who are we going to find. We don't know who will we meet. But I think throughout the journey, throughout the filming process, we will get a much better idea that what this actually is going to be. So our preparation will be from November 6 to 15, shooting to 16 to 26, stuff like that. These are all subject to change. This is like the basic, the timetable. We will hopefully find some interviewees to do some pre-production talk. And then if they're on the board, we would like to shoot them and shoot the other scenes around late November. And then hopefully we will finish it by the time. And then our target audience is adolescents and young adults primarily, because the social sphere and the people that choose those pseudonyms and nicknames are mostly young people and young adults. The field is dominated by them. I think this documentary is more not curated, but they will be more interested in it. And as a secondary target audience, communication and psychology scholars as well, because if we actually have meaningful, like if we can create a impactful documentary, it would be useful for their studies as well. So here are acknowledgements, the SJTU, yada yada, but the most of the acknowledgement of course goes to Professor DJ Kang, Professor Brendan, and of course the kid for all the grateful insights and help that you guys provide to us. So that's basically about it. Do you guys want to add anything else?
Yeah, presentation template source is Canva. We also do that as well. Well, I'm not talented enough to create these beautiful slides.
That's it. Thank you so much. And this is the name group.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, so I think we have, could you stop sharing? Brilliant. Well done. That was great. Okay, we have one more presentation from Osaka University. I'm just getting it ready. Would you like to come take a seat? You're seeing the screen, so if you want to switch the camera around so we can see everybody. Thank you, Darshi. Brilliant. Okay. It's nice to see who you're talking to.
Yeah, hi. So we are Victor and Miki, and we'll be presenting about our film, which is called Letter Number One. In this film, on his first visit to Japan, Anike reflects with his grandfather about returning to the ancestral land. And as for our longer synopsis, Victor visits the neighborhood where his grandfather was born and grew up. 90 years separate the grandfather's departure from his visit, and the house number 622 no longer exists. Even so, walking through the post-war streets on the outskirts of Osaka, he decides to talk with his deceased grandfather, Keizo. They reflect on arrivals and departures, on othering and belonging, past and future, on homes, bridges, and connections.
So the style and approach, according to Nicole's nomenclature, would be something between poetic but mostly performative styles. So understanding knowledge as something concrete and embodied, to better make sense of general processes at work in society, we want to shed light to the effective dimensions of migration, belonging, crossing national and cultural boundaries. Again, from the nomenclature in performative style, we intend to question the traditional approach in which Nikkei and diaspora populations would be object of gaze, and instead it would be us speaking about ourselves to us, and then us speaking about ourselves to you, the audience. Practically, we intend to have 15 to 20 second still shots in which movement comes from both the environment and me moving in such backgrounds. We are cogitating the use of archive images and maps, and we'll have 2 versions with subtitles in English and Japanese, following the letter being read out loud in Brazilian Portuguese. Well, me reading the letter. So also for the audio, we have sounds from the environment, from our captures, and we're cogitating using music from 30s, Japanese music from 30s. For references, we have 4, starting from audiovisual reference. We have Correspondencias, Carta 1 de José Luis Guerrín para Jonas Mekas, which is basically, well, one unit of several video letters that these 2 artists send to each other. So they're both talking about their lives, their experiences, and using video to communicate, and meta-linguistically talking about video making while doing so. Then we have 2 screenshots. I quote, "This reacting to life with a camera has accompanied me on my wanderings over the past few months." So in black, white, small shots, they go talking to each other and sending this small video.
Our main historical reference is the novel Sobo by Ishikawa Tatsuzo. The author was a Japanese man who traveled to Brazil briefly, didn't settle there, but based on his experience, he tells the story of a Japanese woman who is first, it's a trilogy, so first she's preparing to immigrate to Brazil, then the travel overseas, and then eventually settling on a plantation in Brazil. And this is in the 1930s when the Japanese government had a policy of encouraging mainly impoverished farmers to leave the country in the name of, the nation, kind of. And we have a quote from the book, which is, "I think immigrants are like dry leaves. They lived in the rural village as long as they could, as long as they were like green leaves. When they could no longer live there, they dried up and fell. In falling, they gathered here, didn't they? The lodging is like a place where heaps of dry leaves collect, blown by the wind. And these leaves, when they reach Brazil, will sprout again from dry leaves." So this quotation kind of portrays the immigrants as passive, and they're just leaves blowing in the wind, being taken rather than like having their own agency. So we're kind of exploring this idea and hoping that through our film we can give these silenced people more agency. We also looked at this article that was written about the trilogy, which includes this quotation by the author himself of the book. And it says, the thousands of immigrants sent out to South America were the prediction of Imperial Japan, which led to the country's destruction. I feel terror about the government policies which caused such a human tragedy. It was a mistake on the part of the Japanese government that caused those poor farmers to wander across a foreign land as kimin, or the abandoned. So this quotation more explicitly like refers to the government's clear intention to put these diaspora communities through this experience, but also yeah, even though this is the historical context, we don't want the film to like be victimizing or like promote like a victim narrative, but rather yeah, provide agency and talk about like what people made of this situation and what came of the families that went through this. As for like more aesthetic and kind of thematic reference, we have these two films by Naomi Kawase, a Japanese filmmaker, and they both explore her relationship with her grandmother. So this first film, Katatsumori, like features her speaking with her grandmother, scenes of her grandmother gardening and like around the neighborhood where the filmmaker grew up. And it kind of explores how their relationship changes, the distance, closeness between them as she gets older. And the second film also features the same grandmother, but there's no dialogue, and it's just audio from these like automatic voice answering machines. Yeah, so this is kind of aesthetic inspiration as well as inspiration for exploring this intergenerational relationship. And our main participant will be Victor himself as the protagonist, but we'll also be collaborating with people for archives and gaining historical information. So we're gaining contact with the Kobe Center for Overseas Migration and Cultural Interaction, which is where Brazilian immigrants in this time like departed from the Kobe port. Also the Osaka Municipal Central Library, the Moriguchi City Office, Moriguchi Library, and community centers and shops around Moriguchi, which is where Victor's grandfather lived. Here's our timeline. Yeah, not much to say about that. And our target audience, first, because this is a more poetic and performative piece, we do think that it can appeal to like the general public, and we're especially aiming to target the Japanese public to increase understanding about diasporic communities, especially who return and how they kind of fit into Japanese society. And as well, we're targeting Nikkei communities and diasporic communities in general, again, with this idea that we speak about ourselves to us and we speak about ourselves to you. We want to tell stories about ourselves in a way that other diasporic people can relate to and feel seen in. Yes, so I will be producing and doing most of the camera work, and Victor is the main director, and we will be both working on the editing. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. I love the videos. You'll get a feel of Osaka. Okay, so I'm stopping sharing, and that was the last presentation from our side. So I think we have one more from Shanghai Jiao Tong University.
Yes, just 1 second. Casper, can you take your group here? Yeah, so they changed their slides slightly, so I will need to find where the slides are.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
So can't really. Sorry, 1 second.
Timing's been good by everybody. Just 20 minutes.
Sorry about that. We're looking for the.
Let's put that one into this.
There, no, maybe not. This is the camera. Here, how about there? the main bridge. Oh, here.
And there's an expo at the the vintage festival.
Yeah, we'll be ready.
3 days, not just clothes, vintage everything.
Sorry, there was a poorly translated word in the previous presentation that wasn't very PC, so we had to change it. Yes.
All right, our slides are ready. Okay, now let me change the camera. So please, the presenters stay on the side a little bit. Yeah, feel free to move the keyboard. All right, whoever stays can, center yourself. All right, floor is yours.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Harry. This is Copper, Lena, and Britt, and today I'm very happy to be the first member of my team to present our pitch. And as you all know, like currently in the world and also in China particularly, people intend to use only two major operating system that are the Windows and Mac OS. And somehow we forgot that there are so many other open source operating system like Linux. However, the conflict of Linux is that although it's totally free, but people are quite hesitant to use it, and they even don't know about it. So in order to gain, a deeper understanding of Linux application, we decided to make this documentary project, Linux in China, why not? And So this is our one sentence hypnosis. Linux is striving to gain acceptance from users in China, and the interesting story behind their first-hand experience can surprise you. So we do believe that this hypnosis can, arouse the curiosity from the audience, like why Linux has to persuade the tech user to use it, and what is the back story. So we move to the one paragraph hypnosis. So this documentary is an investigative documentary exploring the challenges faced by Linux. And the film begins with some question like, why not Linux in China? And the feature insight from Linux expert and the user community. Then the narrative shifts to non-Linux students, uncovering their hesitation and also misconception about Linux. And to bridge the gap between skepticism and experience, participants will engage in some very simple tasks on Linux, and the climax showcase their surprise and also new feeling for Linux, and prompting some question like, is Linux still so hard after using it? And you can see here the major problem of Linux is that it's under a lot of pressure from big technology corporations, and the micro problem of Linux is that it's misunderstood by the user regarding its difficulty. So it's the reason why we want to conduct some interview and also like some usability tests for the guests. And next is your target audience.
So I'm going to define the who for our documentary. As you can see by the slides, our documentary is designed to reach a diverse audience interested in technology, open source solution, and digital trends. Our primary audience includes tech enthusiasts, people that are fascinated by innovation and open source software who will find Linux unique journey in China captivity. Beyond them, we also have our secondary audience, for example, China enthusiasts. They will find a fresh angle here by seeing how tech unfolds in Chinese unique landscape, and educators that are seeking for cost-effective open source solution for digital literacy, and casual users that are open to trying new OS. We also encourage current Linux community members who also see their own experience being reflected, as we will conduct interviews and user trials for the people that never touched Linux before. Finally, we have a general audience curious about tech and digital literacy who will find an engaging look at an alternative OS and fresh perspective on computing. Okay. And here's our styles and approach. Our documentary will blend 3 key styles to create a dynamic and immersive experience. At its core, it's expository, presenting facts and insight about Linux adoption in China. But it's also participatory, allowing viewers to see reactions and experience of real users firsthand. Lastly, we take a reflexive approach, promoting the audience to question their own OS choices. When it comes to mood and tone, as you can see, they're informative and engaging and warm and inclusive. We're aiming for something informative yet engaging. Think warm and inclusive. We want the users to feel welcome into the conversation, no matter their familiarity with Linux. And our approach includes a clean, modern visual style, starting with Linux basics, and then divided into personal stories and expert insight. This led us to into a hidden economy mode, which is also known as imported. Yeah. Exploring competition between China and the other big corporate softwares. And for some visual reference, to bring this vision in life, we use a mix of creative elements. Here is a general visual of what we're aiming towards to help our audience understand in a simple way, as Linux could be a little confusing for people that are unfamiliar with it. We want to be easy yet engaging. We'll start with archive footage and impactful text overlays, like the first reference, the making of Linux the world's first open source operating system. Adding historical context and key facts that can help us ground the documentary. We're also planning on shooting B-roll footage from SJTU Linux user community events that will highlight the vibrant Linux user culture. And we're also planning on conducting interviews both online and in person, as you can see from the second reference photo. We will give voices to the expert. We plan to ideally have a meeting with interview with Open Kylin or like our SJTU Linux user community leader, everyday user, and even student. We're planning on doing a user study on student trying Linux for the first time, which you can use the third image as a reference of how we're planning on shooting this, like how people are going to try the Linux system. Together, these elements create a story that's not only visually engaging, but also thought-provoking, engaging user to rethink their digital choices. We're going to Casper to introduce our roles.
Hello. So I'm very humbled and happy to be working with this talented team over here. So I'll be directing. Lena is going to be working as the camera operator, but she also is a native Chinese speaker, so she's helping us liaise with the SJTU Linux community here. Harry is the video editor, and Bridget is the production manager, and you'll be hearing from her next. So these are the main collaborators. The first one being Open Kylin, with whom I have a meeting today. I'm trying to convince them that it's worth their time. So if you have any good sound bites or things that I should say to them in the next 2 hours, please let me know or let DJ Kang know, and I'll make sure to include them in the meeting. The SJTU Linux user group, Lena's in contact with them on QQ, and we're hoping to go to one of their events, as we said. And then for the non-experts, I think that's pretty much everybody. I just want to say I'm really grateful to this team here for engaging with quite a new topic that can be quite challenging, and taking on the challenge of simplifying it to a wider audience.
So I'll be discussing like the basic timeline. We're planning to do like our preparation like sometime, obviously like we're planning it right now. I think this would give everyone like a better understanding. We're probably gonna start like shooting like next week, probably like Fridays. But this is our general idea of like how our project is gonna go. And yeah, like current updates. Again, like we have the meeting with Open Kylin. Also, Lena is in contact with the SJTU group for the Linux users. And then we're also having like weekly meetings on Mondays. And then we're also planning to finish up our script writing and also like our interview questions and consent forms by next Monday. So yeah, and it's also like borrowing equipment and stuff like that for the shoot. And these are our sources. These are the videos. Also like Canva for the template, and also like our school for the acknowledgements. Yeah, and also I guess our collaboration with the Osaka University. Yeah, thank you. I think that marks the end of the presentation.
Great, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.